Welcome, members and guests. Today is, it's April 3rd. April's here. Welcome to the virtual program of the Suburban Chicago Apple Users. I'm your host and the VP of the Chicago Apple Users, Suburban Chicago Apple Users, George Brooks. Today we have Bob Fairbairn. He returns to talk about Apple Silicon and the Mac's future, and he'll also take your questions. Don't forget, stay around for our Afterglow. We have a very special announcement in Afterglow. For those of you who are watching this in the recording, see, you should have actually attended. But let me tell you a little bit about who we are. The Suburban Apple Users are a group of over 100 Apple users. We used to be just in Chicagoland, but however, we are now nationwide, who regularly meet to exchange ideas and best practices, tips, and offer each other help about technology. We also, talk about how to keep use of our tech-savvy dollars and exchange our best practices on our passion for Apple technology. You can join us by logging on to myscau.org. And if you're not a member, hey, you can sign up right on that webpage. For those of you who are actually live, just want to actually remind you, please keep your microphone muted when you're not speaking. If in the event that you have a question, please place the question into the chat and we will address your question. You may be called upon to unmute your mic to clarify your question or ask your question. If in the event that you have a question that's not related to today's subject matter, please hold that question to the afterglow. And those of you who are watching this as a recording, see, you should have been here live and you could have asked your question. But now I'm going to actually introduce today's speaker, Bob Fairbairn. He is a technology professional with a broad experience of technology. He has been in information security. He's worked at a large communication provider who invented the cell phone. He's a photography guru. He was also a former vice president of the Suburban Chicago Apple Users. He's also a veteran, and he's, believe it or not, an all-around good guy. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Bob Fairbairn for today's topic, talking to us about Apple Silicon. Go ahead, Bob.
George, I think we should just close the meeting after that introduction. That's all we needed. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Apple, we talked about this a little bit before, but Apple is changing the world one chip at a time to a certain extent. And the thing that they released last fall, this M1 chip, is an interesting change in the way computing works for everybody. And it started a new wave. So yesterday there was an announcement that all of the new Chromebooks and all of the new Android phones coming from Google were going to be on Google Silicon. And then there's a kind of announcement from Microsoft that they're sort of doing the same thing. So what's it all mean? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And then we're going to talk very specifically about the Mac I'm using right here, which is the M1 MacBook Air. Hang on a second. Hang on. Let me do this. Monday morning. Feels like Monday morning. I purchased the original MacBook Air when it came out. And while it was a fascinating little computer and it was totally revolutionary on size, it was, let's just say, not fast, not effective, not efficient, but boy, it was light and small. So here we are. When was that one announced? Dave, do you remember? I don't remember. Oh, you're muted.
At least 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10. I'm going to say 10. I'm just going to say 10. What they have done in 2020 and 21 with the M1 is exactly the opposite of the performance side. This thing eats everything I have thrown at it, and it just does the job so well. And that it's taken over basically all of my computing needs. I hardly use my iPad. Oh, that's iPad guy. iPad guy. Go back inside. Go back inside. I hardly use my iPad anymore. And a lot of times when I'm using my iPad, it's as a second screen on the MacBook Air. So that's been fascinating. I'm set up here in my office, which is my primary computing space, and it's the MacBook Air on one side and a 27-inch 5K monitor that I'm using for display most of the time, and that has replaced the iMac that was here. I just expanded a little bit with the thanks to Dave for helping me find a open box USB 4 hub. So that's got me running with a couple of things, and there'll be an extension onto that a little bit later on. Yep, that guy right there. Plug and play, plug and play. Although I'm having a little trouble with dual monitors, Dave, you'll have to help me out here. So anyway, I think it's the monitor, not the or the MacBook for that. So let's talk about Apple News and Apple MacBooks and Big Sur a little bit. So let me, where are we going to go here? Let's not share yet. There's a lot of talk about the MacBook and the way the M1 security system works. So over time, Apple has been changing the hardware security on laptops. Well, they're changing on the phone too, but we're going to talk about the laptops. And they have improved the security, and they put in this T2 chip in the Intel-based Macs, and it did a whole bunch of things. But one of the most important things it does is improve the security, and the security model has changed for Mac OS, and that is causing some confusion. And specifically, it's causing confusion about backups. And I would like to kind of talk a little bit about backups here pretty early on and talk about how I'm doing backups on the M1, because it is different. Excuse me, it is different than the way I did it before, and I think it's better. So one of the things we used to do all the time was use a program like SuperDuper or Carbon Copy Cloner, and we would create an image backup of the machine. And then we could take that drive and we could go plug that into any other machine and reboot it off of that drive, and we would have a backup. That is not impossible to do anymore, but very hard. The backup guys are frustrated by Apple's security, shall we say, in this space. And so I got to thinking about this about a year ago when I knew it was coming, and I've changed my backup strategy just very slightly. And I think we'll go over that here now a little bit. So I have attached to the MacBook a backup drive. It happens to be way more powerful and way bigger than it needs to be. It's a 2 terabyte NVMe drive, which is a real fast drive. I use that for photo processing and stuff. The MacBook Air, M1 MacBook Air doesn't really need that, but that's my backup drive. So that's plugged in, and that's Time Machine does that. I keep a second Time Machine backup. Yes, I'm backup overkill Bob. On a network attached storage device in the house, and I use the Backblaze service to back up the data. And there's another one running. Well, we won't talk about that. I'm a photographer. I'm crazy. There's another Mac running and doing more backups, and photos getting shoved up to Google Photos and all that. But the whole point is that Time Machine and Backblaze have become my primary backup utility. The other thing I use is Apple's iCloud services, and Apple's iCloud has the ability to store your documents from your desktop and certain folders on iCloud Drive. The thing that is a little different about that, a lot of people are not used to that because the Mac kind of manages, if you're not careful, what's stored on your Mac and what's stored in the cloud. So if you let them manage it, they will offload files from your Mac onto their cloud service. And that means it won't be backed up by Backblaze and it won't be backed up by Time Machine. So that's something you have to kind of be a little bit careful about. Or if you're offline a lot and that file happens to be stored offline, you don't have internet access, that file could be inaccessible to you because it's offline. So you have to kind of think about that process a little bit. If you don't have a lot of data or you have a big enough hard drive to store most of that data on your Mac, then you're probably all right. Now, I have 3/4 of a terabyte of photos and videos, which is interesting. I'm taking more photos and the size is shrinking. Can't figure that out. Oh, yes, I can. We'll mention that a little later. That's photography segue. The fact is that all of the photos that we take now using the Apple codecs that make it smaller, the actual size of the photos are dramatically smaller, unless you shoot in RAW, and then they're dramatically bigger. So the backup strategy has changed from making an image, which I still do on a couple of the Macs. They're Intel based and they don't have some of these problems. If you really want to dig down deep in imaging and all that, I'll give you a reference here shortly to a new book on Take Control. From Take Control, we've get discounts on it. I've been reading it. It's fascinating. It's kind of deep tech, but it tells you how to do backups using these tools, or what you can and can't do with backups doing these tools, and all the procedures for backup and recovery of the M1 Macs. They are different if you get to that point, and hopefully not too many people will get there. But it does require a little bit of extra effort if in fact you get to a point where you have to format your hard drive or reinstall the operating system from scratch, things like that. That becomes more complicated with these machines. So that's an I'll call it that much of a negative, just a tiny bit of a negative. And other than that, that's I would say that's a stumbling block for some people emotionally, is that they can't get over that. As far as day-to-day operations, there is absolutely nothing I have thrown at this Mac that I would say makes it slow, okay, that makes it act weird. There's a couple of things that I notice every now and then, and I can't say why why one of them happens, the other one I know why. Every now and then it's really weird. You don't get beach balls, the spinning beach ball. You don't get beach balls on this Mac, except for every now and then when I open a new tab in Safari. I don't know if anybody else has seen that, and it may be a Big Sur thing, it may be an M1 thing, but just like 1 out of 30 times or 1 out of 20 times, why is that tab not opening? Because you expect it to just open. You close the lid on this Mac, you set it down, you pick it up, you open it up, and it's on instantly. If you got one of these on your wrist, it unlocks instantly. It's gosh, like using an iPad almost. So it's absolutely fascinating. The fingerprint reader, of course, works fine. There's no touch bar on these. Just probably not enough room and not enough price for it. The keyboard, I have had zero issues. I still get freaky with keyboards, like at the dinner table. I don't know about you, or having a snack or whatever. I still get a little bit freaky about having that keyboard there. So I very often keep the iPad there with a keyboard that's replaceable more easily. But you shouldn't be eating around your computers anyway. So that's kind of some positive and some negatives a little bit there. I've noticed a couple of things go by here, some comments. I don't have the comments open at the moment. So if anybody wants to jump in and talk about their experience or questions before I go just a little bit deeper on this, but just kind of, stay lighthearted, stay a little fun up top. And if anybody has any specific questions, we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth about the hardware and the software here as we get going. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, and if not, we're
good. There's just questions about when we're going to get the upgrades and all that stuff. You could probably address that.
The Apple Want machine.
Yeah, the MacBook Pro 16-inch.
Oh, yes. I tell you what, all I want is a bigger monitor. All I want is a bigger monitor. All I want is a bigger monitor. So I bought
Yep.
a bigger monitor. One cable on a stand. I'd show you my desk here, but it would be embarrassing because you can see the piles behind me. So the MacBook Air sits on a raindrop stand. Is it raindrop? Yeah, I think it's called rain design. Excuse me. It's a rain design stand, which gets it up in the air, and it raises the monitor to be just a little. So the monitor on the laptop is at a better height for you, and it's at the right distance away. I got to tip it back up here again for operation, and then a single cable from that plugs into the dock. And I need the dock for a couple of specific reasons. We'll get into that. You don't normally need it with this LG display. You wouldn't need it if you didn't have a couple of the peripheral needs that I'm going to have in the near future. So you wouldn't need it for that. You just literally plug in that display and it charges the Mac, and it runs the 5K display, and the monitor or the keyboard, mouse, and halfway decent speakers, by the way, if anybody has listened to the LG 5K display that Apple sells. It's really not too bad all the way around. Of course, most cameras are not great. This is the camera from the LG display that I'm on. It's nowhere near as good as what I've been using before, but I'm in the middle of some change, so I apologize for not having the best picture possible. So that creates a workspace where I can sit down and work with a Logitech keyboard and mouse. I can freely, and I could never do this with the Intel Macs, plug and unplug that USB-C connector, Thunderbolt connector, plug it in, unplug it, unplug it again, close the Mac, whatever, and just go away with the Mac, come back, plug it in, and the monitor wakes up instantly. None of this, oh, you got to reboot because the graphics system didn't work. It has been, the graphics subsystem with external monitors has basically been flawless since I've used this, both with the bigger dock from OWC and with the new little dock and direct. So that has been, it's been absolutely phenomenal. The other thing that I have surprised myself of lately, and it's been, I don't know if it was the second or the third, incremental release of the operating system, but I've noticed that basically I can almost go 2 days of normal operation with the Mac without charging it. And that is absolutely amazing. I sat upstairs this week. I'm developing some new websites for myself using website development application on the Mac, and photos, video editing, shoving stuff up to the server, checking all that for 2 days solid, sitting at the kitchen table just because it was nice outside and it's cold in the basement. The battery just barely creeped down. So whatever they have done has been absolutely phenomenal on battery life. So like I said, it's starting to check more and more of the boxes off. This is a phenomenal change for us, both in performance and in convenience. Okay. I don't think it will slow their iPad sales. I don't have a burning desire to buy a new iPad right now. So I don't know. That's a good thing. We'll see what happens when they announce one. All right.
Hey, Bob, we do have a couple of questions here in
Sure.
the chat. One from Frank Salvatini.
Hi, Frank.
Frank, you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, Bob, I'm not sure if you have the resources for this, but I was asking whether you take the Mac Mini M1, all these M1s, MacBook Air and MacBook Pro, which ones, if you want the fastest responses and stuff?
Oh, okay. Well, let me give you what I have done, reiterate that a little bit, and let's kind of talk through that just a little bit. So I got the 1 terabyte storage and 16 gigabytes of RAM. I'm a RAM fanatic. I honestly would have loved to play with this with 8 gig, but I didn't want to risk it because I'm a little bit heavier user than most people. And this thing ate my 2017 5K iMacs breakfast. and lunch and dinner, performance-wise. Everything, just ate it for lunch. Now, I made a mistake with that Mac. I bought the Fusion drive, and that was a mistake. Okay, that caused me quite a bit of performance problems. But other than that, this thing is just fast and instantaneous and responsive and that kind of stuff. And so it just absolutely flies. Now, if you look at the benchmarks, and there's a bunch of places that have done benchmark testing, and I don't think anybody anybody that I have seen, all of them out there have been pretty good. I haven't picked one as go see her. Renee Ritchie has done some stuff, but there's a bunch of tests that have happened, and all of them are basically the same. The iMac, not the iMac, the MacBook Pro, M1 MacBook Pro is just, maybe a little bit faster and a little bit more performant, but not that much, because it has a fan in it and has the ability to run that. I don't think anybody has ever been able to really make the fan spin up and make a bunch of noise, other than maybe some huge exports or upsampling or something of some sort of video files. But the Mac Mini, M1 Mac Mini, boy, that's hard to say. M1 Mac Mini is absolutely a phenomenal performer. It doesn't throttle as much. It goes faster. It's got a couple of extra ports on it, which are helpful. It's basically dead quiet, and the entry price on that is absolutely phenomenal. So you can scale up. So you can get it, get the 16 gig, just because going forward, I'd say get the 16 gig, and then pick your storage size. You probably don't have to go crazy, and you're done. And this could be your Mac for the next 5-6 years without any trouble at all, because you can upgrade the things around it. Sitting over here is the Mac that does a whole bunch of other stuff. It's a 2014 Mac Mini, and the performance on it is good, but nowhere near as good as this. So that may eventually get replaced with something else. But I would say that if you want the fastest one today, and you're willing to live with a desktop form factor, the Mac Mini is probably just that much more. Most people won't see that. I can show you the only thing here in a minute. Demo takes too long to demo it. The only thing that I have seen that slows these Macs down is some video transcoding. So if I take a 4K video and I transcode it to a 1080p video, that slows these things down, but it slows down every Mac. It slows them down. And Apple Photos user interface doesn't show you what it's doing very well. I've been doing a bunch of that lately, so I've noticed that. So you drag a 4K video out, or you export a 4K video to 1080p, and the progress bar says 0 forever, and then boom, it's done. So whatever it's processing inside, I think that might be a little bit of photos, but I would say that there is nothing I have thrown at this Mac that most people would throw at it that would cause any grief. Big spreadsheets, downloads, whatever. Nothing causes this thing to hiccup at all.
I can attest to that too. I have a M1 Mac Mini, but I went with the base model, the 8 gigs of memory and 256 solid state. Mm-hmm. So it's a champ. Never hear it. There's no fan. I don't hear anything. It's quiet. Performance. I mean, I've run Final Cut Pro on this thing, and it doesn't even hiccup.
Yeah, I run Final Cut on this Mac all the time. No issues, none whatsoever. And Final Cut, of course, Final Cut has been optimized now for this, and that's one of the things we're going to get into a little bit here, a little bit more, is M1 optimized apps and running iPad apps and turning your Mac into an iPad. Ooh, controversial. Do that in a little bit. So, anything else, Frank?
No. That should do it. I think you answered that. I just was I'm struggling. I have the Mac Mini, but I need a laptop, I think, just for transferring. And I know that iPad Pro can do it, but I don't like iPad Pro. All right. I don't like touch screens.
Yeah, so. I love touch screens. I try and touch the screen all the time. Okay.
Don't you get mixed up?
Yes, all the time. What? How many touch screens do we have? Okay, I try and touch screens all the time. Wait a minute, it's almost. I wish touch screens didn't exist, then I wouldn't have this urge to touch the screen. And especially when I'm working with the iPad as the monitor, second monitor on the Mac Mini, boy, it gets confusing fast. I've started to unwind that a little bit. I would today, I'm going to make a statement that 6 months ago I wouldn't have made. If I was recommending an Apple product, a single Apple product for someone today, before it would have been iPad, today it's M1 MacBook Air. Simple as that. Less accessories to buy, easier to use, powers on instantaneously, great battery life, doesn't weigh too much, good keyboard, good trackpad support, all of the advantages that Mac OS has over iPad OS. iPad OS has some advantages over Mac OS, but iPad man behind me here, he's stabbing me in the back, right? He's, Bob, don't say that. Bob, don't say that. The iPad's your favorite gadget. That's you've been driving the iPad. Dave, you were right. The Mac is better.
Yes, yes.
But
I just wondered the Air or the Pro.
Oh, I honestly, I have no qualms about buying the Air. I have zero qualms about buying the Air for, unless you're using a lot of the big Adobe products extensively. Okay, this Air just. I thought I would take it back. I really did. I waited till, I saw all these reviews, stuff like that. So, okay, I got 14 days to prove this. After about 4 days, maybe even only 3, but really after about 4 days, I took the 27-inch iMac, I set it aside, I put a 4K monitor and the M1 on the desk, and I haven't looked back since. Literally, there is nothing that this thing can't do that I throw at it every single day that's a problem. And then the fact that it boots virtually instantaneously, and it battery lasts a tremendously long time, operationally, doing quote normal operations. It might go down a little bit if you're doing a lot of video editing and stuff, but we're like photo editing, and nothing I do seems to spin it up or does anything, and it barely gets warm ever. So let's see. Right now, I'm going to check something. Hang on.
What storage did you buy?
I got the 1 terabyte. I should have gotten the 2, but it wasn't available. So what I try and do is to not custom order when I'm experimenting. So what I got was the 16 gig, 1 terabyte of storage, because that's the business model that Apple usually stocks. So I can get it locally and pick it. So they usually have like 2 models. They have one hidden. So what you got to do is you got to trigger around with the sizes. So typically it's like kick up the storage 50%. So they've got an 8 gig 512, and they have a 16 gig 1 terabyte that they usually stock. So we've been on here for 28 minutes, and I'm in the basement. Okay, so it's a little cool down here, and I don't think I can feel any warmth. Oops, hitting keyboards. I don't think I can feel any warmth anywhere on the bottom of this thing. It isn't even warming up. And now this is the new version of Zoom, which is M1. Yeah, it's Mac. It's Mac. Mac's Apple Silicon.
Yes.
It doesn't. It zero performance issues. And if you wanted to, you could do virtual backgrounds on this thing. I haven't tried it in a while. You can do virtual backgrounds. I find them a little odd sometimes. Mr. World Backup Day, and I don't know where Dave's living. Dave's living somewhere. Where's Dave living?
It's in my studio.
Yeah, it's in your studio. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. All right, it's in your studio. Okay, so you're gonna make me do this, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're gonna make me do this. All right.
Well, just like you, Bob. I actually have the M1 Mac Mini, and I love this thing.
That's pretty fuzzy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could go with the Halo. But I'm gonna hopefully by our next meeting I'll change that. But I agree with you. This M1 is just a phenomenal machine. Here's a question I got to ask: how long have you gone and not restarted the machine?
2 weeks.
Hmm.
2 weeks.
And did you restart it because it was a performance thing, or you just like, okay, it's been 2 weeks, let me restart it?
So I have been through network HE double chopsticks and a whole bunch of things around the house. We had last weekend was technology HELL, and I have only I'm trying to remember why I rebooted it one time. I have not had a normal reason for rebooting it. I was doing some work last night and I rebooted it 3 times till I figured out it was an Apple Photos problem, and I just had to have patience. And that's that literally in the last 24 hours, it's that 4K to 1080p transcoding problem in Apple Photos. And I don't think it's a problem. I think it's a UI issue. I have to test it a little bit more and check with a couple of my friends at Apple. I have not had a reason to reboot it. I have not had a reason to shut it down. None whatsoever. Now, it's the same thing with the iPad, right? How often do you reboot an iPad? And we've never really had to do much with Macs. It's not the only other reboots I know of is operating system updates. But I don't remember having a frenetic, oh my goodness, it's broken, slow down issue that has required me to even think about pushing the restart button.
Okay. Dave Lankin, you have a question here about configurations. If you want to unmute and ask that question.
Okay, just a second here. Let me check it. Yeah, could Bob, publish kind of after the meeting some potential computer configurations that people might consider when purchasing the MacBook Air?
Okay. I don't think we have to wait.
That is to say the disk size, recommended memory.
Okay. I think we can do that. We could do that right now.
Okay.
It's really very simple. For most people, the thing that's gonna bother them the most is photos. All right. At least that's my current thought. So how big is your photos library right now? Okay. And depending upon how big your photos library is and how fast it's growing, that might be the kicker on storage. If you've got text files, word processing, documents, email, that kind of stuff, or spreadsheets, it's noise. It's nothing. But photography and video are the things that eat people's breakfast because it just grows and grows and grows and grows. All right. I think that the 8 gigabyte 8512, I think that's one of the standard ones, is fine for just about everybody. If you're paranoid like me, then I get the 16 gig, and let me explain why, because there's no way to upgrade it. Okay. Now there's less of an issue with storage, and I'll explain that in a minute. There's less of an issue with storage depending upon how your mind works. Okay. So the 16 gig, 1 terabyte machine is kind of this business standard mix, maybe a little more storage than even most people need. But that's sort of where that's kind of where we're at. So the 8 gig is, what do I say? Probably just fine for almost everybody. So that's sort of I would think. If you start doing a lot of like big Adobe work or big photo and editing work, stuff like that, but spreadsheets, word processing, email, web browsing, none of that's gonna kick you over the 8 gig. 8 gig will be fine for a long time, I'm pretty sure. Okay. So I think that's the kicker, those two. And I have absolutely no qualms to recommend this MacBook Air to anybody who wants a laptop that doesn't make any noise, is lightweight, easy to transport, battery charges fast, battery life lasts a long time. You might want to get a little sleeve to protect it, not necessarily the $150 Apple one, but you want to get a little sleeve to protect it. And other than that, rock and roll. It is like absolute sweet spot in computing. It's like there's a sweet spot in the iPad line. We could talk about that later, or Dave should talk about that later when he talks about iPhone SIG, stuff like that. So I would have no qualms to walk into the Apple store and buy that 8 gig 512 just like that.
I had one other question regarding software compatibility. Obviously there might be some glitches.
Yeah.
But have they been very minimal? Is software compatibility an issue?
I would say so far basically none, but I'm gonna caveat that. What are you running a modern version of the operating system on your current Mac? You on Big Sur?
That's one of the things that.
Okay, so you got to do that. You got to do that inventory. What's the name of that app?
I know which one you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that one that sells it 64-bit ready, whatever that one was. Run that and see what's there. If you have a lot of third-party apps, you're going to want to check that. But everything in Apple land just works. Okay, no issues whatsoever. So photos, iWork, everything just is all fine.
I think it's Go 64.
Yeah, Go 64. That's it.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I do want to say one thing.
Yes.
For those people who want to run Windows, that's still kind of sort of up in the air.
Yeah, it's all about Microsoft's licensing.
Right, but because I have VMware, it does not particularly work on the M1 yet.
No.
But they are currently working on it, as well as Parallels. I think Parallels have they come out yet?
Yeah, Parallels has got some. If you're going to try and run Windows on a Mac, just wait, or better yet, spend $500 on a basic Windows machine and run it over there. Seriously, or figure out why you have to run Windows and figure out how to get away from it. I think the biggest thing that the M1 is doing for me, it's reducing very slowly for me. It should be faster than this. It's reducing the number of pieces of computing equipment that I have to manage. One of the things that is problematic is, I've got 3 iPads, I've got an iPhone, and I've got a couple of Macs, and that's daunting to make sure it's all managed and that kind of stuff. And this is reducing that. Okay. And at some point, most of the external stuff is going to go away. It's getting really, really quick to go away. I still need to maintain like at least one iPad around from, helping my customers and that kind of stuff. But I have not picked up my 11-inch iPad for a very, very long time for any reason. I have been using my iPad Mini because my Kindle died. I have a new Kindle now. For book reading. So that is, I'm serious. It really, the ideal computing to a certain extent is, depending upon your photography, it's a MacBook Air, M1 MacBook Air, and an iPhone 12 mini. And all of a sudden, you've dropped your cost down, you've dropped your computing complexity down, and you have massive flexibility. You don't have any noise or any fans in your life. Everything works together. And if you need a big screen, you can plug in a big screen. If you don't need a big screen, you don't need to, and you can pick it up and you can go anywhere. It is a phenomenal way of going. So anyway.
Can I add my 2 cents here?
Yes, please, Craig.
So actually, I was lucky enough that I got a loaner from Apple for 30 days of both the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, and I torture tested them. For example, with the 8 gig, I looked at how much free space RAM there was, and then had the computer create a single file that used up all that free space, so that it wouldn't be able to do any memory swapping to the SSD. And it was only at that point that I saw any kind of memory issues running every single application in the applications folder at the same time. So I'll keep it brief here, but I would say that really you can get away with the 8 gig memory. I think people are just I think Apple kind of included the 16 gig config so that people just wouldn't shy away from doing it.
So that we're not afraid. We're not afraid.
Right.
Oh my God, there's
Right.
not enough
That we
memory in
say,
there.
oh, that I'm going to hold off. I can't get by with 8 gig.
Yeah.
But so my bottom line is that I think you could honestly go out and buy the 7 core GPU and the 8 gig RAM, and you would never get your money's worth spending more than that, and kind of apply that money to your next computer. However, the other option is if it's a business or if you're on deadline, then definitely upgrade. But I think the most basic model, you're probably never going to really notice the problems with that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, because it's good to hear everybody, oh, I had a bad experience or I had a good experience. And what you're saying echoes exactly what I've read everywhere. This is a game changer. It absolutely is. Okay. So let's do this. Let's change gears a little bit. And we're going to share desktop 2. All right. Kind of get a couple more things straightened out here. All right. All right. So just as I'm assuming everyone can see my share.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this is just, this is what's one of the things we were talking about a little bit. So let's just kind of do an overview. So the latest version of the OS 2 displays, the built-in Retina. And by the way, this display that built-in Retina display is absolutely gorgeous. It's really good. And this is the LG Ultrafine. Here's the storage. So this is my backup drive, and it's been running my backup drive since the beginning. So it's Time Machine, and you could say it's 700 gig. This is the storage on the Mac. I have storage optimized. I'll show you that in a minute. And right now, I got 114 gig of documents and 68 gig of photos. We're going to show you how much photos I really have. 30 gig of apps, and iCloud Drive about 20 gig, 21 gig. So that's this machine, and it's literally sitting here idling. It really isn't doing anything. Let me do this. ACT activity monitor. Let's kind of bring that up, set it in a corner. So activity monitor is, it's this thing is doing nothing. All right. Load is down. The memory, it says I've used 11 gig. That's flushable. It's just not even trying at this point in time.
Go back to that to your activity monitor and click on CPU again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everybody, look down at the bottom where it says idle.
Uh-huh.
It's like 70% idle. Almost.
Yeah.
And look at everything that he has open.
Well, there's not much open right now.
True.
There's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of stuff
right.
That's not really open. Hang on. For some reason, Apple Mail is eating a bunch of CPU for some reason. Don't know why.
Well, Mail does actually mail.
Yeah, it'll go away now. It's shut down. But anyway, and this machine is literally the same temperature as the room. I cannot feel anything at all, and this is doing nothing. So we can bring up photos here real quick, and there. Well, Bob's playing with toys here. Let's this is what I do in my real life here. Other things. So let's play a video. Okay, you guys, you all want one of these. And here's why.
Mow at light, mow at night.
Oh wow. Okay, Steve. I'm sorry. you got my attention. Okay, that's an electric lawnmower with a light on it. Is it electric?
Yeah, it's battery powered.
Okay.
There will be. I'll send you a link to what's going on. I'm doing.
Right now, but
I'm doing long-term tool reviews for Ryobi, effectively, and so that's we'll point you at my website here in a little bit so you can see that. So now, watch the video, and I just the CPU load here. There's no CPU load. There's nothing going on. There's no spikes. It's just, I would love to bring down my wife's 18-month-old Intel Mac and show you what happens with this kind of stuff. It's just absolutely wild. So anyway, that's a couple of things, and I can get into photo editing and video editing, and there's literally no load showing. Right now, probably the biggest load it's a combination. One of the things is activity monitor pulls a couple 3% all the time. All right. But if I quit photos now, yeah, I'm going to quit. This is my exporting problem. This is where Bob's going to do something you don't normally do just because I'm waiting for it. Yeah, goodbye. Normally you don't do that, but anyway, I screwed something up, so it's my fault. So now we've got absolutely nothing going on the machine really at all. I don't know how much of my monitor you can actually see here. Let's see. Let's go up to. So one of the things that that Apple promised and has not delivered on as well as I would like is running iPad and iPhone apps on the Mac. And they've given the developers the option to turn that off. And so many of them have turned it off, and it's really so sad. But one of the ones that runs pretty nicely, if you've run this at, well, at least I think it has, there it comes up. Let me bring it over on the screen, is Discourse Hub. Okay. So that's for our community. And so this is the iPad app running on the Mac. Okay. Fully resizable window. Everything works fine. Here's the announcements. Okay. Very pleased with the way that works. So that is a really important iPad app for me. I had another one that I don't need to use anymore. And again, there's nothing going on here. The Mac is doing absolutely nothing running this iPad app. Okay. So the other one I use, obviously, is Technology People. Where'd it go? Hello, where's the window? Window is hiding.
Other screen?
Yeah, it's not there. I don't see it. Let me hang on. Huh. I don't see the window. I think Zoom's hiding it on me. Anyway, so I use the deliveries app for managing all my deliveries. And I don't know why it didn't appear. Anyway, it works reasonably well. There it is. Came up. Bob doesn't have any deliveries right now. So that's a deliveries app. And I think you were right. It was probably on the other screen and I just couldn't see it. That's a deliveries app. That's one of a couple of iPad apps that I use fairly regularly that I kind of miss. Now you can do both of these things a different way, but I like those a lot. There's a couple of others, but those are the ones that I use primarily. So that's a couple of iPad apps that work. And let me bring up. I was just going to look and see if there was anything else here that would be interesting to show that is different. No, there's nothing here that I really need to demo. Go ahead.
Bob,
Do you have Photoshop?
That's what
No, I don't use Photoshop.
Oh, okay. That's exactly what I was just going to ask, because I know how much of a system hog Photoshop can be.
Oh, okay. Well, so I use
Pixelmator?
Pixelmator Pro. Okay.
Is it optimized for the M1?
Yes,
Oh,
it
yeah.
is.
Okay.
So
Bob, you should show the apps view in manage under this to show.
oh yeah, we could do that. So that's under.
It'll tell you, go up to
Yeah.
about this Mac and
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's
then
where
under
is it?
storage, then manage
There we go.
applications. And then show people it tells you whether it's an Intel based app
right,
or if it's a
right. So
I don't think Zoom is. I mean, check Zoom. I don't think it's. I think it still says Intel.
Apple Silicon.
I'm sure.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I just downloaded it.
Yeah, and when they swapped over, which was not that long ago, it just the Mac doesn't heat up anymore. Just flies. Okay. So
I just downloaded it.
Yep. Yeah, so you should update on your Mac.
Yeah,
so, here's the other one that's I'm using the Slack iOS app. That's the other one I was using. So I run Slack for a few things, although I'm not real happy about it. Here's, you can see many of these are universal. So Chrome is now universal. Pages, of course. Dropbox, why they haven't done it, I don't know. Signal is not. So there's a bunch of universal apps, right? Spark didn't go over. I wish Spark would go over. It's a little faster, but I like Spark. For remote control, I'm using AnyDesk, which is a universal app now. And Chrome Renest. I'm just looking to see what else is here. That's about it. So there's a bunch of Intel apps here, and you can't tell that they're Intel apps. You really can't tell. Other than a couple of them that are built on the what do you call it? The universal apps development stuff that lets you run apps on different operating systems, and I can't think of the name of that. And that's going to come up.
Rosetta 2, you mean?
No, not that. Not the Intel one. The one that lets people run apps write the same app and run on Windows and on Mac. What's the name of that thing? I don't remember. There's a bunch of them. Anyway,
Electron.
That's one of them. Yeah, it's not the one I'm thinking of. Anyway, where the UI just looks like garbage because it's not native. So anyway, yeah. So you can see that most of these apps that I use on a daily basis are now universal, which is absolutely wonderful. So, and then some of them, of course, are work better when they're Apple Silicon, only. That's fine. So that absolutely flies. It's the other thing that's amazing is how fast Xcode is. Xcode is really fast on this machine. So we don't need to get into that. What else do you want to demo?
Final Cut Pro.
Oh, that's a good one, Frank. Yeah,
you can always also show people how fast browsers are opening now. Since now, Microsoft Edge, Microsoft or Firefox, and are very, very fast. I mean, it's almost instantaneous now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow is right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are no Final Cut projects on here right now.
Okay.
I don't think.
But you saw how quick the
The
app
way it
opened.
came up was very instructive.
Yeah. Okay. So here,
My
let's.
iMac Pro is about 7
Hey.
times slower.
All
Hey,
right.
Bob,
Here.
would you mind opening up like the CPU history and activity monitor just so we can see the window up in the Windows menu, just like CPU.
Oh,
history.
CPU history.
Yeah,
Oh, that one.
just so we can see as you're working along.
Okay. Let me
how it's
minimize
training.
that. Okay. So
Thank
yeah, that's not a problem. So we can get that. What's another window that my here? Can I do 2? Yeah. There we go. Okay, so there's GPU history and CPU history running. Let's just minimize Final Cut. So Final Cut's running. Let's bring up Rapid Weaver. Get a project open in Rapid Weaver. Let's Slack's running. Let's open up Photos. So Photos is running. Let's see what else would be fun to have open. Okay, let's open up Safari. Did you see that?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. Now open up, matter of fact, open up, remember how Mail was using a lot of your CPU? Open up Mail just to.
There's Firefox up. Firefox took over the whole get Civic. So Firefox comes up. Let's see. Mail may open on the wrong screen. Yeah.
That's all right. You can leave it.
So Mail's up. All right. What do you want? What else do you want me to open? Let's open up music. There's music.
You know, what's amazing is that when you think about it, you're doing this when we're all on Zoom looking at you doing it too. So that's the other thing we have to look at is that, and we know how, everybody knows how Zoom really pulls down a machine, but you have all these other programs open,
right?
And we're all on Zoom
and I'm sending it to you. I'm sending it to you over Zoom.
Right.
Somebody was asking on the community. I forgot who it was. Asked a community question. We were kind of talking about that and try and answer that maybe right at the moment. There was something about getting reminders for anniversaries, and I think that Apple's calendar doesn't do it, but I'm 99.9% sure that Fantastical does. So go check that out. If it's one of the problems with Apple's calendar, it doesn't give you alerts for anniversaries. So let's see. Let's open up news. Oops, what did I do? Oh, that's interesting. Let's open up news. Let's go to who's my favorite noisy news site. Okay. Let's, without getting, that's a podcast. Oh, I know. Let's go to BBC. Yeah, look at this. It's done it twice. Interesting. Or did it once, rather.
It's called the trackers they have running.
Well, that's, yeah, but I got them mostly blocked. I don't want to play anything controversial news-wise since we're recording. Okay, so we got all that going. That's fine. Let's bring back up Photos. There's Photos. Let's play this. No, I don't want. I got a better idea. Let's do this. Let's go over to. Let's play a YouTube video while we're doing stuff. And
while you're looking at that, Bob, just to distinguish the apps, Zoom really buried the download for the Apple Silicon. There was a link, very small, little fine print. If you have an Apple Silicon app, Mac, click here and download it. So when people go to download it for the Mac, and if they have an M1 processor, it's gonna if you don't look for that small little link, it's gonna be the Intel version. And when you go into the kind, when it shows the types of apps that are installed, when it says universal, that means the developer created a universal app which works with both.
Right.
In this case, when it says Apple Silicon, that means that app specifically is only for the M1 Mac.
Right. What I was trying to do is so now we have a remote access session running to a Windows machine and video playing in the background. Okay. Is that loaded up enough for you?
Yeah, load pretty quick.
All right. So let's see.
So basically what you did was you remote desktoped into one of your Windows machines.
Yeah, I'm remote desktop into a Windows machine.
Right.
Yep.
So you have to have a physical piece of hardware. This isn't virtual.
No, this is a Windows machine in the other room. That's how I'm doing it. And you can use any desk. So that machine sits there and runs all the time and does some specific thing. I have a specific I have one application that I will not run on Mac OS that I need. I'm beta testing an app. And so it's a desktop that sits in the other room and it's way overkill, but there's a Windows machine running on the Mac. And a remote access. So that's any disk. So let's start quitting apps. Okay. And kind of watch and see what happens. So I'm going to watch the graphics. See if it falls off.
Just remember, everybody can see your calendar.
There's nothing on there that's important. Okay. So hang on. So right now, the only thing running is Activity Monitor and Zoom. And if you noticed up here, the graphics stuff, it looks like it got really busy, but I never saw it doing anything heavy.
Bob, a real quick question. It looks like it's 6 cores on the CPU. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, it looks like everything you did was divided equally among the cores. So the multi-threading is probably what contributes a lot to the speed.
Yeah, that's the combination of the operating system and the hardware doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, there we go. So now basically the only thing running right now is Zoom, screen share, and Activity Monitor. And let me just do it real quick. Oh, you know what? I can feel a warm spot on the bottom of the Mac right now. Just a little warm spot. No fan, no noise. Okay. I dare you to do that every day. Anyway, I would say this is what I would call a successful test. Other than the fact that I showed a license key that Dave is going to nicely edit out before he releases it. I apologize for creating work for you. That was a keystroke accident.
And if I may give you some feedback, Bob, towards the end of the presentation, I just completed the online application purchase for the MacBook Pro. M1 maxed out, integrated into 12 equal slices, which is fine. That's not a big burden.
Well, there's a few people here who have this, and what I was hoping to do today is to show everyone that this thing is a beast in sheep's clothing or something. I don't know I don't know how else to state it. It just is absolutely amazing performance machine. And there's just nothing that it does that I would even consider, oh, I'd have to think about that or whatever. It's absolutely wild. So here, let's just right click, open a new tabs. 1, 2, 3. Okay. The only tab that doesn't open right is our slowest. So Google News is the one that never opens right. Google News is just slow, but all the rest of those tabs are all open just virtually instantaneously. And then Google News is still sitting there. So goodbye, Google News. Anyway, so that's finally Google News opened up. Back to the start page. Anyway, that sort of gives you an indication, or you're like, you open up the weather underground, and these weather sites tend to be, kind of noisy and all that. Although I do have an ad blocker running, so that helps a lot. Anyway, web video.
I've got another thing for you, Bob. There's an app out there called Silicon Info that you can run in the background. It stores up on the taskbar at the top. And anytime you have an app open, you can actually just click this icon and it'll tell you whether or not that app is Apple Silicon based or if it's Intel based. It's an app called Silicon Info.
I see it. I guess, okay, that's cute, but why do you need it?
You don't.
Okay.
It's just
cool.
a kind of a, it's kind of anything. And the other thing I noticed too is VLC, which is a very popular media player.
Yes.
When you go to look in there to what type of app it is, it actually says it's an iOS app, but then you go to the Silicon app, it says it's a Silicon app. So,
so that's interesting. So a little
an iOS app though. It's the actual.
It's an iOS app. Yeah. And I haven't installed it. How's that perform? VLC perform pretty well?
Yeah, I load it right away and it plays videos, pretty seamless. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that I think, where are we at? We're 11:08. All right. There's got to be more questions.
One thing I will say, Bob, is that by you doing this demonstration and this talk, you have now given me something else to do, because I moved a lot of things from my old computer over to this one, and I noticed that there's a lot of things that are not compatible or unsupported. I noticed since I've gone into the manage and I've taken a look at things, I was like, oh, really? So one thing I would recommend is, folks, if you're going to go to an M1, don't bring a lot of stuff over. Think about what you're doing. Just don't copy everything over and say, okay, I got everything, and start going, because there are things that may not run or may not be supported.
I would suggest a parallel thing to do. I did the migration twice. Okay. So the first time I did I did a migration and then I did a clean start back when I started this up. So I migrated my Intel Mac to the M1. Okay. And ran with that for a while to see if I could see anything. I had an issue or two, and that was in the early days. And I said, well, what's it like to do a clean start? And that required a little bit of technical know-how that was pretty weakly deployed back then. Now we have a lot more about it. So re-imaging back to fresh is easier now than it was when the OS first came out. So then what I did is I installed the operating system fresh. That required some extra work, and that take control book will kind of walk you through that. Not something you do lightheartedly on an M1 device or any of the Apple Silicon devices due to the security. So that, I think, I don't want to be violating copyrights here. That I think is something to consider a little bit, but start out fresh and then keep both your Macs around and drag the data over and do that. So most of my data, Apple, in quotes, Apple data is in iCloud. So I think that helped me a lot. I also use a little bit of Google Drive and a little bit of Dropbox, but I just keep everything kind of as a safe place in the cloud to a certain extent. So that helps that a lot.
And you do have to boot differently when you want to do what boot as. You have to hold the power button down as opposed to we were always so used to holding the option key
right
to get to alternate drives. So they've changed that quite a bit. I don't know if you want to touch on that at all.
Oh yeah. The whole segment of how you the whole segment of how you manage booting from other devices, the security around booting, the security around updates and all that has changed a lot. Most people won't see it, but when you get to that edge case, when and if you actually have a problem, it becomes more complicated. And so that's something you got to think about a little bit going forward. And that Take Control book will get you there if you need it. There's a bunch of us around who can help with that. It's not anything to worry about per se. It's just a little bit odd. So to do a full recovery of an M1 Mac, you basically treat it like an iPhone and you plug it into another Mac and you run Apple Configurator on that other Mac. That doesn't mean that anybody should have to do that except for in a very exceptional basis, but it's the way you have to recover it if it's really off in la la land. So, and I'm sure the Apple Store will help you with that if you get to that point. But anyway.
The other thing is too the controversy about the fact that you can't create a bootable drive
right.
using Carbon Copy Cloner or Super Duper because of the limitations of the APFS file system.
Yeah. That's I wouldn't call it a controversy to a certain extent. People are trying to make it into one, specifically the people that sell the backup software. It's a security feature. The way Apple does this with APFS is they very carefully protect the 2 copies of the operating system that they keep in reserved space. They have a little mini one and then a full-sized one. And it's so internet recovery is done differently and all that. That might be an exercise down the road as more of these come around, Dave. Maybe we want to think about that, because in a lot of ways, there's a lot of iOS-like methodologies here. So, you boot to recovery, that whole terminology has started to change with the Apple Silicon ARM Macs. So,
which Take Control book were you talking about? The one Take Control of your M1 Mac?
Yeah, I think that's it. Hang on, let me pull up books.
So that's the one that just came out.
Yeah, it just came out. It's actually a good read. Your M1 series Mac.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the
Take Control. Yeah, 1.0. It's if you're geek into this is a good one to have.
It's cheap too. It's only, we'll get a 30% discount. I did put the link previously in the chat if you didn't get it. $8.99 is the list price, so we'll get 30% off that. So it's like next to nothing. So
yeah, it is way beyond what we know. What we normally would have to do. But yeah, it's nicely done. It's a 1.0. They will update it. It's not a really long book.
It's only 84 pages.
Yeah. It will definitely help you if you're confused by all this or want to be unconfused by it, or maybe more confused by it after you read the book. So that's what I was talking about originally, is my backup strategy is pretty much two things. I'm not sharing now, but I could share again. Let me do this real quick so we can show that.
Did you have something, George?
No, I was just going to say, when you look at all of the different things in this new technology with these machines, that when you look at the price of that book, that's a steal, especially with our 30% discount. Even for me, the tech miser, I think that's a steal.
Well, and any of the technical books are awesome.
Right.
I think we all know that. So, I mean, take advantage of them.
So this is Backblaze, which is my primary offsite backup. And this is something that we should talk about here that I forgot. Thank you, Dave. You actually sent me somewhere we forgot. So this is 263 meg. Well, we're going to look at something in a minute and go, where's all the data? Then
And the
Time Machine. I'll do this quick. So Time Machine is the other one. All right. And the problem is that not all of my data is on this Mac. Okay. And that's what I want to show right. Where's storage? Where's, well, we can do it up here. Okay, you can see it here. So I have 677 gigabytes of photos and video in iCloud. And on the Mac, I have managed storage, and I only have 250 gigs of stuff on the storage and only 68 gig of photos. So I do not have all of the photo library stored on the Mac. Now I could make it fit now. I have 741 gig available. I could actually now do it because my library is down quite a bit. And that will give me the advantage, and then I will be able to have all of my photos and everything on there. So what's happening is my storage needs are actually growing slower than I thought they would, which is actually kind of nice. So I could actually untick that box in photos and not optimize Mac storage. So I can untick one of these boxes here and it'll do all of it. But right now, not all of the data is stored on this Mac, and that might bother some people. It's backed up. I have another Mac. It has this turned off, and that's all backed up. That's all backed up locally on that. So I don't care about it. So this is sort of a throwaway Mac, but if you want to look at it that way, if it dies or it gets stolen, I just go into an Apple store with a credit card. Not too worried about it. Anyway.
Go with a credit card. You go with your iPhone because you want that percentage off.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, Bob, this is Craig. I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So, like the new M1 is supposed to have like a new neural engine or from machine learning or something.
Right.
And I've tried to figure out how I could see that. And I was thinking, I don't have a big photo library, but I was thinking maybe one way was, you know how in photos it's got that facial recognition feature or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you come across any certain tasks that you notice are particularly faster on the M1? Not necessarily overall performance, but any certain task, little task or something that seem to benefit.
Well, and the thing is I don't know about it would be neural engine specific. So I don't know anything that's neural engine specific other than the face recognition in photos. And I know that's part of it. So, here's people that I know. So, let's see if I can find me. So here's a bunch of me's. Right. And there's no way I can. There's no way I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah,
really
I
help.
struggled to find any way to tease out, any
Yeah,
of
I'm not
those
so sure there's a way
special
of teasing
chips.
it out. So,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. I see something that needs to come out of the photo library that shouldn't be in there. It was in there for a while ago. Uh, uh, that one right there is a picture from my driver's license. When we were traveling internationally, I always wanted to have a backup. So there's a copy of my driver's license in my photos library. I won't click on that one, Dave.
Please don't. I'll mention something. Not everybody's big gamers. I'm going to talk about this during the iPhone iOS SIG on Wednesday. Apple Arcade just added some great games. One of them is Oregon Trail, which was a game that's been around for like forever.
Really? Oh,
and
cool.
I just installed it. I was like, wait, I want to install this to see if it's going to work on my M1 Mac, and it does. And it's full screen. The graphics are pretty amazing. And this is running on a Mac, and this is an iOS app. So that itself is just pretty amazing. As long as you have an arcade subscription, you have to have that. I have the Apple One bundle, so it includes all the games. And I wasn't too excited about our Apple Arcade at first. I'm probably spoiling it. I was going to talk about this on Wednesday, but it's okay. Not everybody will be there, but they've added a ton of new games, and this is one of them that kind of excited me because I remember playing Oregon Trail when I was a kid. Gosh, going 30, 40 years ago, and it was all like a text based. A lot of them back in those days. Oregon Trail, yes, Oregon Trail. And
did you play Choplifter?
I think I remember that one too. I remember a game called Rusky Duck that was an Apple II game. That we were just talking about that on the podcast this week. So, but that's another advantage of the fact that if they're allowing games that's part of Apple Arcade to install on this M1 Mac, now this is going to give you a dual capability of not only on your iPhone or your iPad, it's on your Mac too.
Yeah, and that is a huge advantage of actually having an M1 Mac is the ability to run the iOS stuff, or iPad OS stuff on your computer, because there are those applications, games, and other things that look much better on that platform than the Mac platform, or they may not even exist on the Mac platform.
And I'll give an example. LumaFusion, which is a huge video editing app that's available on the iPad, which works really well. It's not as intuitive on a Mac because it really has a lot of touch needs from using an iPad versus it does work on the Mac, but it may not be as a bit of experience. So it all depends on the developer and what they decide to allow. And like Bob said, these apps can be. These developers can say, yeah, we'll allow it in Mac, or no, we won't. And there's a lot that don't.
Yeah, I find that kind of sad because even though the experience isn't perfect, it really is a huge advantage to bring more tools out there. So, yeah.
And then, like you were saying, because I have the Intel MacBook Air, and I am so tired of listening to that fans.
I'm still using my MacBook Pro, and I hear it all the time here. So.
And I'm really like that close from pulling the trigger and actually upgrading to the M1 Air. I really, but.
So one of the things I was going to do, I'm still thinking about doing it, is the guys at Mac Sales have this desktop drive thing that holds eight drives for storage and stuff, and it's all Thunderbolt and all that. Yep. The problem is it's got a fan in it, and you have all these spinning drives. And I'm going, I want this stuff. I'm thinking about going away from NAS and going to that, and it's expensive, but it's the fan. It's the fan.
Well, but it could be enclosed enough that you.
Yeah, but it's got to be it's got to be close to you, because if you're going to run video through it, you have Thunderbolt cable length issues.
Yeah, that's true. But it might be enclosed.
It might be okay, and maybe I could put a different fan in it and all that. But
it might be. I understand, especially when you're talking about in a video environment. But it could be the fan could be in there, and actually you may not hear.
It's I forgot what they said the noise level was, but it's like, and then also if you have spinning discs in there, you know, they make quite a bit of noise. Spinning drives make noise. I have my second backup NAS sitting behind me right now. I was doing the offline backup that I'm finishing up. And that's by the way, that's a lesson we should talk about. So I have 20 terabytes of storage.
Yeah, backup day.
Yeah, I know. I'm letting you point. That's why I got quiet. I have 20 terabytes of storage that isn't backed up anywhere. You know, so the backups aren't backed up. And so what I've got is I've got another NAS because I test NASs so I can use them in my customers. There's a NAS and its whole job is an archive. So everything in the house gets archived onto that NAS. And as soon as that is done, it gets unplugged from the network and unplugged from power. Okay.
Now, let's talk about that. Now,
yeah.
For those of you who don't know, NAS is network attached storage. Have you actually put any SSDs in a NAS yet?
Only as cache.
Okay, well, why not? Why
I'm actually running on NAS right now with two SSDs in it. I have a 2-bay Synology that I'm running.
Yeah, it's fine. That would absolutely be fine. It's just that I haven't actually gotten to that point yet. The drives are getting bigger, and this new U2 form factor is actually it's a pluggable solid state NVMe drive, and you know, they're getting in the 15-16 terabyte range for enterprise drives that are not terribly expensive. So
we got a question. Elda, if you want to unmute your mic, go and ask your question. If you can, Elda.
Yeah, sorry, was looking at something another screen. Yeah, I was just looking at the Air on the Apple site. Can you talk about the Thunderbolt only ports available on the Air? Are you needing lots of adapters for other things in your general use?
No, not. But I would say no, but it depends on your use case. So I do not have a lot of use cases that require that. I have every dongle in the world that I've had for years. Yeah. Probably the one that's most needed by people is this one right here, and that gives you a USB-A, a power, and HDMI. That's probably the one that everybody should spend, what is it, $70 on or something? There's some other varieties of it, but this is the Apple one. That's the only one that I think is more common. The other one would be just a USB-C to USB-A if you're plugging in memory sticks and stuff like that. I have a dock, as Dave was showing earlier. Is that dock still free, Dave? The dock you've got? So I'm using this dock. It's your background is messing with it. There you go. You can see it as long as it's in front of you. So it's a little tiny dock, and your face just disappeared. And it's one cable to the Mac. It has a USB-A port on it. Show the other side, Dave. It's got a USB-A port. So there's the 3 USB. It's got one USB-A. So I use that. I'm using that for. That's a nice way to. There's a bunch of them, and that's on my desk, and it solves that problem. Every now and then I've used the USB-A adapter dock, but very, very rarely these days. It's
the only downfall to this stock is it does have a power brick that has to plug in to power it up, and it's not cheap. It's $150. So
well, don't forget about the OWC's travel dock.
That one I haven't looked at that one yet, and isn't that one $99?
No, it's actually $60. I have it.
Yeah, about $60 because I actually have it. It's really nice because you can actually do a pass through with your charger.
Okay, and that solves. If you're docked a lot, that's actually pretty good. So it's got USB, HDMI. And USB power pass through. Okay.
Yeah.
So it isn't a hub, but it's yeah. Oh, that's actually kind of nice in the cable storage. That
Right,
one,
54 bucks, 54.99.
yeah, $54.99.
Yeah.
Could you put some of those links in the
Sure,
community?
Yeah.
we'll put them in the chat and we'll also put them in the community.
In a community here. Let me.
My main
Put it in
I
the,
just put the one for the travel dock, the USB-C travel dock in the community,
Yeah.
in the chat. But
So
we'll
my-
also do that.
my main concern about connectivity would be the running. I have 2 external backup drives that are USB, so that
Yeah.
you could run that through the converter.
Yeah, you could just get you could use a dock like this if you need it, and that would give you your external monitor and a USB out. That's one way of doing it. If you're just going to run a USB, then if you
well,
just
this has a
worry about,
USB. This has a USB-A port and it has an SD card reader too.
yeah,
But the USB-C connector that's on here is a pass-through only, so it's only good for like so it when you
Yeah.
plug this into your port, I mean the idea for this was for travel, was for
Right.
the to have it so you can have travel with you and you don't have to, you don't lose a port when you plug it in.
dude, why is this? I hate it when it takes me where I don't want it to be.
By the way, if you make a qualifying purchase, you can get this dock for 30 bucks. I noticed on their website.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of deals lately. OWC.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. They've been doing a lot of deals.
A lot of social media presence too now too.
Yeah, it's come up a lot. Why is this forcing me to the military discount store? I don't want to go there. Anyway, Apple sells a little $20 USB-C to USB-A adapter. I think it's 20.
You can probably
which is all you need. I have not found it limiting at this point, but I am pretty much mostly online. You know, a lot of stuff is on network. The only thing that is the only thing I have externally that I use on a regular basis is a memory card reader for camera, for photography.
Which this has.
Yeah, and that's why this is nice. This has a right there as a SD card, full-sized SD card, which you can adapt and put the micro SDs in if you need. So
keep in mind too that also if you plug into a monitor, a lot of them have docks built in. So
right,
yes,
that's
right.
how my backup drives are connected. I never connect them directly to my laptop. It's
Well,
always through a monitor.
and the other thing you can do is, so for instance, if you have the Apple sold monitors like this 5K monitor or the 4K one, they've got this one doesn't have USB A ports, but it's got USB-C ports, and so you just get a USB-C to you just get a cable and you can plug it in there. So if you wanted to do that, I have pretty much I'm pretty much everything is Thunderbolt. So here's the thing I was talking about, George. You were
that looks like that. What was that?
Pricey.
That looks like the cheese grater Mac.
Yeah, it does. It's not as big. It looks bigger than it is, but it's got 8 3.5-inch drive bays. Okay,
Till you get to the price.
That's $1,000. It's $1,000 for just the enclosure, $1,100. Okay.
Well, that's for you video files.
The
rest of us are gonna stick with our Synologies for like $300 and throw a couple of drives in there and be done with it.
Well, actually, the one that I find fascinating, and I don't see it right here. No, that's not the one. Oh, this one. This one uses the little M2 drives. Okay. So you can put up to 4 M2 drives in it. The little M2 solid state drives.
Right.
So it's expensive, but it's kind of cool. So anyway, here we do want to turn this into a sales for OWC, even though they're nice people and they're local. So
yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate all of the information that you have given us. Bob will post some additional links in the community. Those of you who are watching this on a recording, see, you could have asked Bob a question, but since you weren't here, okay. But those of you who are watching this on a recording, don't forget you can actually post a question in the community. And if you're not a member, of course, you want to join us and become a member. Go to our website at myscau.org. For those of you who are looking here, you see I have my background of World Backup Day. World Backup Day is actually every year on March the 31st. I know everybody who's hearing my voice either has already backed up their stuff or their stuff is backing up automatically. And if in the event that you're not aware of how to back up, the nice thing about having an Apple Mac computer is that you can actually back up using Time Machine. Just plug in a drive and say go with Time Machine. Or you can actually, like Bob was talking about, and I use Backblaze also. You can go out to backblaze.com for $60 a year, plug in their software, and you get unlimited backup storage. If you're talking about backing up your iPad or your other iOS devices, those backup, you can back up straight to iCloud. Just go into, we'll put links in our community about how all of these different choices. Because the one thing you got to look at is the data you lose is your own, not anyone else's. And we have insurance on our cars, we have insurance on our houses, we have insurance on our lives. So let's put some insurance on our data and our stuff and back up. You know, all the time, every year. The reason why World Backup Day is you're like, why is it March 31st every year? Because we know that April 1st is April Fool's Day. You don't want to be a fool. Back your stuff up. But I know everybody's done it, right? Okay. Just want to let everyone know that to join us for our next main meeting, which will be, our next meeting will be our iOS SIG with Dave Ginsburg, which will be, coming up this week on the 7th. Our next main meeting will be the 17th, and our photo SIG will be on the 21st. So please join us for all those upcoming meetings. By the way, don't forget, stick around. We got a special announcement in the Afterglow. On behalf of the Board of Directors, and I am George Brooks, your Vice President. We want to say thank you for attending today and see you all next time. Have a good, happy Mac Apple Day.